A wave, if you think there's a separate entity called a wave, you'll be mistaken. A wave is an emergent phenomena from the ocean. It's not separate from the ocean. I'm not saying there's no wave. I'm just saying there's no separate wave. And the ego and the doer is this belief in separate self, or being a separate entity that can initiate thoughts and actions. See, a wave can't initiate anything of itself. If a wave had a body and a mind and could think for itself, then the wave, under the spell of ignorance, might believe that it's doing everything. But actually, if it looked and inquired and observed, it would see that actually everything it's doing is actually just the consequence of forces greater than itself in the ocean. And it's just an expression of the ocean. There's no separate wave. And it's just like that, you know, there's no separate Tom. There's no separate Oliver. There's Tom, which is an expression of the universe, and there's Oliver, which is an expression of the universe. So there's no ego. I mean, there's no separate Oliver. There's no separate Tom. But there is the personality and the character and the body and the mind and, you know, the fashion sense and the haircut and the preferences and the accent and the intelligence or lack of, and the knowledge or lack of, you know, all these unique characteristics of all us individual human beings. See, all these different waves, they do exist. All human beings do exist, but they don't exist as separate entities. But most human beings think they're separate. And then the analogy I gave was, if a wave could imagine that it was separate, I mean, if a wave, had a body and mind and could think for itself, it might imagine that it was separate. If it was a really big wave, it might think, look how big I am, I made myself really big, look how great I am. And if it was a really fast wave, it might think, gosh, look how fast I'm going, I'm really fast, I'm amazing. And it might feel pride. And in the same way, it might feel small, it might feel shame, it might feel guilt. But when you realize that all these things are just appearances that appear spontaneously without any evidence of doership, this is ending the ego. I call it ending the ego. You're not really ending the ego. It's like killing Santa Claus. You're not really killing Santa Claus. You're just realizing there was never any Santa Claus. You're just realizing there was never any separate sense of self. Not separate sense of self. I'll keep saying sense of self. It's not actually sense of self. It's belief in self. The same sensations are there. The same sense is there. But it's no longer believed to be a person. You might feel like a self because those sensations of body and mind and tension and worry and crisis and conflicts might all still be there in you. But there's a recognition that it's all just happening for no one, you could say.